Lessons guys, Alex Angela with you. Welcome to my channel and my page. One of the reasons why I decided to come here today, because I wanted to again talk about the universal powers and about the sense and the strength of the faith and what the strength of the faith can give us like humans. So in one of the books I read a very interesting story today, and I got really fascinated with the story. But it is apparently a realistic story based on the real situations and occasions that happened in Europe in the early 1970s. So in this story, basically it's about an oncologist doctor whose name is Dr. Markus, and is known very much in Vienna, and he was on his trip like for kind of some sort of oncology related research to Romania. And that person necessarily was not a believer. He didn't believe in God. He didn't believe, he did not have any kind of a certain faith. He was quite atheistic and also quite realistic person. He believed in science, and he believed in, of course, the ability of the science to help people as much as possible, but he never really believed into anything higher or spiritual. That was just his personality. So at this point, one day when Dr. Markus was invited to one of those cancer-related investigational researches in Romania, he of course took his trip there. He accepted this offer and he decided to take his trip there. So at that point, I think that it was kind of the winter's times or fall times, I believe, because the weather, like in Romania, was not the best one. And Romania is known to be with a lot of fog. There might be a lot of fog, and not maybe in the city itself, but in the suburban parts of it. And so what happened is that as doctor was taking this trip by himself, he didn't really have anybody around him, like neither his helpers or assistants, because he wanted to go on this trip by himself. And at this point, doctor was at least probably 50s or late 40s years old, as the story goes. So when he came to Romania, the weather got really bad, and he lost the map, because again, at this point we didn't have no cell phones or nothing. He lost the map, and he tried to find out where he can stay, because the weather was getting worse. He was getting all soaked up. He didn't know where he was. He was like in a suburban place where he had to reach the city. I think he took the train, but the train was only gonna go to certain areas, and then afterwards the person needed to walk in order to get to the village where they can actually provide them some sort of transport to the city. Again, it was the doctor's first time in Romania. So, of course, the weather was bad. It was really raining heavily. It was really cold, and he got lost and started just walking around and trying to find the door, a place where he could just ask for help or ask for a telephone. But because it was 70s and it was in the small suburban areas in the villages of Romania, in that certain village, not everybody had a phone. I think only 2 or 3 people had the telephone, and there was a telephone booth like in the downtown of the place where people were just going to the markets. And at this point, of course, the night is getting closer, and the doctor is all cold, is all wet, is all hungry. He came up to one door. And he started knocking on the door, and a lady opened the door, and there were just 3 of them in the house: the husband, the wife, and the kid, the boy. There was a 17-year-old boy, as doctor described him. Very nice, with very nice smile and very nice personality. And even though he was very surprised and fascinated that the people from the village were so welcoming and intelligent, because at that point it's still the villagers did not have exactly the same kind of educational background as they are having right now, specifically in some parts and suburban parts and areas of Europe. So he was very fascinated, and he even noted that in his notebook, in his diary, that the family was amazingly sweet to them, very nice to them. He tried to ask for help about the phone, and they told that unfortunately only a couple of people and a couple of places in the village he can find the phone. But it's too late, it's too dark, it's cold out there, it's raining, so they offered him to stay at their place so that they can go tomorrow. And then the doctor agreed because he had no other choices at this point, so he decided, and they offered him to have a dinner with him. So they sat down all together and they took hands, and the doctor first didn't understand what was happening, and then the mother started saying prayer. The doctor at this point was just looking at her because let's not forget that he was atheistic, and in his, he just didn't believe, he didn't have any belief system at this point in anything higher. And then the man looked at him, her husband, and asked, "Oh, you don't know the prayer?" He said, "No, I don't pray because I don't believe in God." They didn't, both of them, wife and husband, didn't say anything, and they just, later on, the wife got up and went down to the other room, and she said she was going to create the place for the doctor to stay at night, to sleep. But then she went to her own room, and the doctor noticed that husband followed her, and they both got on their knees and started praying on their bed. And it was kind of a nightly tradition, he thought. But then he saw how passionately mother was praying, like how passionately she was asking for something, for a miracle. And of course all these prayers were heard by the doctor sitting in the next room, in actually the guest room. So 10 minutes later, both wife and husband came back to the room, and the doctor said, "I'm sorry for my curiosity, but the way that I saw you praying, I've never seen anyone praying like this. Like, I could see your passion in that. I mean, this is fascinating for me, for somebody who's not a believer, to see someone who believes and don't have much things in their life, but yet again being so grateful and so happy, and putting so much passion in their prayers to their God." At this point, mother looked at him and she said, "I have a reason to pray for, and I know that my God hears me, and that's why I'm praying for it." The doctor got even more interested and said, "So may I ask, what about your praying, what you're praying about so passionately?" And the mother said, "My son, who's 17 years old, is now having a grown tumor. Like, in the hospital of the village, they diagnosed him with a cancer. And every night I pray to God so that He can give us power, give us strength, so that we can get over this and just have a help for him." Dr. Markus, of course, couldn't help being astonished, and he was actually speechless for at least the next 5 to 7 minutes, as he noted in his diaries. Then, looking with a very surprised eyes into the woman's eyes, he said, "I'm an oncologist and I'm a surgeon." There was a silence in the room, as it describes it in his diaries, for about 20 seconds, when all of a sudden mother burst into tears, and father just couldn't believe his eyes. And as Dr. Markus then noted in his diaries, he said, "Of course they were welcoming, of course they were great people, and they helped me, and the next morning I was able to reach my transport and make my way to the city." He said, "But as a doctor that gave an oath, for the first time I started believing that there might be something out there higher, something really powerful out there. And for the first time in my life, I started having the sense of that I might believe in something, there might be something." And then he said, "As I gave my oath to help anyone, I knew that this family from the village was really poor. I didn't forget about them. And then after his seminars, the doctor wrote a letter to the central hospital of Romania, or it's something like the Department of Health, because he was pretty well known doctor in Vienna, and asked him if he can perform surgery for this young boy without any payment. And he got the approval for it. And not only that, of course, the government also decided, after hearing the story, decided to help them and took all the expenses, responsibilities on themselves. When he came back, Dr. Markus says, when I came back, I saw the woman's eyes, the mother's eyes. She couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe it. And again, she burst into tears. She said, just yesterday I was praying that you would really come back. Because when you told me that you were a surgeon, I realized you were the God sent. I realized my prayers were heard. You chose my house out of all these houses in the village. And I'm grateful to you. Dr. Markus says that that point when he heard those words, it was one of the best moments probably he ever experienced in his life. Not only now performing the surgeries on different patients and seeing them getting healthy, but also he felt the sense of the mission that his soul had. He completely sensed it with every cell of his body. And he said, I want to thank you as well, because you opened my eyes that there are much more interesting things and unexplainable things and powers out there that we are not all aware of and don't know anything about. Of course, Dr. Markus still emphasized in his memoirs that he was resorting to universal powers, universal spirits, or universal vibrations, because he was still quite of a skeptical person at some point. But this occasion and this situation changed his mind from being completely atheistic into more spiritual. After that, Doctor has been known to perform over hundreds of surgeries, and Dr. Markus passed away at the age of 78. And this story that he told his students before he retired, it was an example that if you came to this industry, or if you're doing something that you're really good at, remember, it means this might be the mission of your soul, and you came here to this world to use that mission, to use that skill of yours in order to be able to help and to complete the mission of your soul. When I read this, I was really fascinated and about the story, because how interestingly it was told, and also hearing that from the perspective of a atheistic person, atheistic and realistic doctor, also again made me just think about the power of the universe and actually how we attract things and the power of attraction in general. And all I want to say is this, like, whatever you're good at, once again, always take into consideration and think of it this way. Possibly you've been sent to this earth with this skill, with this ability, with this talent and gift to do what you're good at, so that you can help others. So the energy that was directed inward turns into beautiful vibrations that's going to be radiated outward. Stay well.